Now, good morning, everybody. Some of you, I know the faces and I've met you before, but just something more about myself. I'm Fiona from Worldwide Information Services, and I know it's a mouthful, WWIS. The people in the subscriptions department, Ilva, Naomi, they know us very well. But Worldwide Information Services is a subscription agent, and maybe you are familiar with EBSCO and then Sweats. Unfortunately, they went belly up last year. So in South Africa, there are the two major subscription agents. So it's us and EBSCO. And what we do is we represent a large number of publishers. And today I'm here in my capacity as Thomson Reuters. I'm wearing a Thomson Reuters hat, but generally speaking, we deal with Taylor & Francis, Wiley, Sage, Lippincott, Kluwer, you name all those publishers, the major ones, and also the smaller South African publishers, Media 24, we also do business with them. And in terms of the universities, it's mainly the database subscriptions, the Sandic deals, and all sorts of products. So that's why you probably don't know Worldwide Information Services, but you are familiar with Thomson Reuters, Web of Science, Researcher ID. I'm sure you know those research products. I'm going to start off with author ambiguity and then researcher's brand. Now, if there's one thing that I want you to remember today is brand. Think of yourself as a brand. I know when you think of Coke, Nike, you immediately recognize Nike as a brand. And you all know the slogan, just do it. So instead of, procrastinating, just do it. But think of yourself as a brand, and when you think of author ambiguity, that's confusion with your surname when you do research. Now, what is author ambiguity, or then confusion, basically? That is when you get multiple researchers in different fields, or even in the same field of research, but they have the same surname. Now, in South Africa, you find that Naidoo, Govender, Botha, Pillay, and Smith, with the TH, are the most common surnames. Now, with Naidoo, you also get the U at the end, not double O-U. And that is a huge problem in places like University of KwaZulu-Natal. We have all the Pillays, all the Naidoos doing research. Sometimes they're on the same field of expertise, medicine, for instance. Now, so you have to have kind of a tool to identify you and differentiate you from somebody else. So that's when we look at researcher ID. And we have an example there of Wilson B. and Fenner. Now, which one? Wilson B. You have to distinguish between the two of them. Now, the idea of having a centralized system identifying researchers goes way back to 1940, but it's only now with the online journals that people thought, oh, there's a problem. I have to be more specific. I have to identify my research work and distinguish it from somebody else's. So the idea is that you have less confusion, so that you can see, okay, MCQ, but you also have Michael CQ. Now, when you are an established researcher, the citation and the evaluation becomes critical, and the H-index, and you are all familiar with that. So that is also why you have to have identifiers. And it's easy to identify your article and save it, and then cross-referencing is also much easier when you look at the different search engines. So the idea is to easily identify leaders in your subject area, and then you create your own brand. You are a specialist in the field of oncology or literature. And then you do that by giving a descriptive title. Don't, when you write an article, think of something like Introduction to the Black Sea. I mean, it is open as you can imagine, Black Sea. From a psychologist's point of view, you can think, okay, the person is depressed, what is happening there? If you think of sciences, are you thinking of the fishes in the Black Sea? So have a descriptive title. I know it's obvious, but you don't always get a very descriptive title. And then an abstract. I know it's so difficult to write an abstract. especially if you have a long research article, a review article, 20, 30 pages, and now you have to combine that in so many words. Very, very difficult. And then the keywords, your keywords have to be specific. I mean, again, it's obvious. But, you know, look at them. Try and be specific. And then your name and your co-author's name. Now, if you're a lady and you start publishing under your maiden name, maybe you should consider sticking to that when you get married. You know, think of that. Don't change it. Or, yeah, you may, but just think of that. Now, I have the slide of Albert Einstein. When you create an email address, especially on Google, Yahoo, be again specific. You are creating your own brand, Fiona Bester. Don't think of something funny, crazypsychiatrist@gmail.com. You are promoting yourself. So if you are affiliated to a university, then use the university's email address. I mean, you're proud of your name, you're proud of your institution, use that. Now, a good paper is defined by quality. The content in demand, trustworthy information, logic, reference list, text format. The other day I was horrified. It happened at GIBS, University of Pretoria's Business School. There was this MBA student. He studied for 2 years. He did everything. But when he got to the point of doing his dissertation, he messed up. He took somebody from UNISA's work and he copied and pasted almost that entire dissertation and he handed it in. And luckily, they are using some kind of software. I think all the universities are now using that software package, where you can see if there was plagiarism, if the work was copied from A to B or slightly changed or what. But this student was caught out. And I was completely horrified that you can, I mean, an MBA is not easy. It's long hours, you have to be so dedicated. What is the point of doing that? I mean, if you can't cope, extend your studies with a year, 6 months. Yes, I know it's costly, but in the end you have an MBA. What is the point now of copying and pasting and sort of forget about the quality of your work and your name as a brand and just do that? I mean, I can't get over that one. So a good paper is defined by quality. And then again we get to the brand. You've done all your research, you've completed your paper, and now you go to a conference. You present your paper at the conference. And again, you are promoting yourself. You're promoting your research, your brand. You're publishing it. It's accessible on the internet, on websites. So the focus always is on you as a brand. So you must think of that. And not just, okay, it's a lot of work, I have to register, do something on Reacher ID or Google or ORCID. Just do it. So then you have that unique identifier. So there's my list of references. There's only one that I've used for the author ambiguity. Now, managing your research and building your personal brand, you see that comes in again with Researcher ID. Now, I know that Researcher ID is a product of Thomson Reuters, but you get various other products. And I know, for instance, university is already using ORCID, or like the other day somebody said ORC ID, and I thought, okay, that's different. ORC ID. But you can also think of this Researcher ID as a pipe. Think of it as like plumbing. You on one side, you as the researcher, and then your article on the other side. You have to connect the two. So you can use the example of plumbing. There's a pipe, there's a link. Or the other example that you can use maybe is thinking of your credit card and the chip. You went to Pick and Pay, you did your grocery shopping, and you paid with your credit card, and you entered your PIN. Now that transaction at Pick and Pay is linked to you. You've done it. So that is, again, the analogy between researcher ID or any ID that you are using and again your brand. There's always that link. So with researcher ID, as I said, it's a product of Thomson Reuters. You create your unique ID, and it also helps with the disambiguation. So if you think of Naidu, Pillay, Smith, in a couple of years' time, there will definitely be more surnames, Chabalala, that we will think of if you think, but the searches are coming up. So at the moment it's just those. But you build a publication list identifying your work, and when you create the profile, you can say it's private or public, and I'll give you the examples now. And then it assists with the metrics. Now I know you will never get a perfect tool to assist with the metrics. There will always be subject areas that are excluded, but it will assist with the H index. And then you can get the citations. How many times were you cited, co-cited, the averages as well. And that is what the bosses at the university are interested in, the deans, for instance. So now on Web of Science, you get that researcher ID, and it's under My Tools. And if you haven't registered, then it's complementary to ORCID. That's how I see it, as complementary. So you click on researcher ID, you register there. Now, this person, Davids, Razeen, she's here at the University of Stellenbosch. So you can see all her research work at a glance. And there's her ID, researcher ID, and she also has an ORCID ID. So she's already done that. And you can see her list of publications. So at a glance, everything is there. And you can see there 2013, that she do these articles. But what is also interesting is all the variations of the names that she's published under. So that's what I'm saying. When you, especially when you do your first research article, decide how are you going to brand yourself. Are you going to publish as F. Bester in my case, or Fiona Bester? And in this case, she's published like, you can see MR, M. Razim, Mohat R. So kind of standardize on that. And again, it goes down to your brand. That's there at the top, all the variations. Now this is where we see all the metrics in terms of the same person, there she, and then you can easily see her H index as 8, and then the citations. Now this is all from Web of Science core collection. I don't know if you are familiar with this, but it's like fascinating information. Now, when you have a researcher ID, you can see who you can collaborate with. And when you are a researcher, that is critical. You have to collaborate. There's no point in just working with a colleague here at Stellenbosch University. You should collaborate with UCT, University of Western Cape, WITS, Pretoria, UKZN. Doesn't matter what your field of expertise is, but you have to collaborate. It's good for your exposure. And then other people get to know of your work. They start citing you, vice versa, and it goes on. So with a researcher ID, you can see how many people have registered in South Africa, how many people already have IDs, and then you can see in the rest of the world how many there are, not just by color coding. Now, for instance, this is an example of this person, Rachel Garcia, and you can see, okay, I'm in this field, who can I collaborate with? So by looking at this slide, you can see, okay, but this isn't this person, they are in South Africa. This one, she's specializing in material science, chemistry, physical chemistry. So then you can contact that person and say, I'm specializing in this field of chemistry. What are the possibilities of us collaborating? And very often people appreciate that when you approach them and say, can we not work together and publish an article together? You can see where people are situated all over the world, and you get more specific, and even where they are, the detail. Now, how do we go about creating a profile? There are two options. If you don't have an ID as yet, you can go direct to Researcher ID at that URL, or you can go to Web of Knowledge, and then it's there by My Tools and Researcher ID. And you do it there on the side. Join now. A little bit later I'll explain all these keywords, why some of them are more bold and some of them are in a smaller font. So it's very easy, very straightforward. You type in your name, your surname, and then your email address. And then you are going to get a link from the website just to confirm that the email address is correct and that it is you that are busy registering. So then you get that link back there at the top, just the confirmation and everything. And then you start completing all these fields. Your university, your address, fields of expertise. So it's a form that you fill out. And there is the integration with ORCID. So you can say, for instance, I already have an ORCID record. No, thank you. Or I would like to create one if you don't have one as yet. So that's the option there. Now what is nice with ORCID, I can just add something in here, is it's also linked to the university. And the university, as you know, is already a member of ORCID and pay that. So ORCID will become, I think, very well used by Stellenbosch University. So you have your own unique ID and the university has an ID. So the linking in terms of research and so will become easier and better. Everything will be more streamlined. But yeah, there's the ORCID thing. So now you get to the point where you can manage your profile and you can add more detail. And this is my colleague Melissa. She's already created a profile for herself. So it's up there, manage your profile. And over here, this is where you add your subject area. For instance, is it accounting, is it science, is it engineering? What field of engineering? And that is important, the public. Is your profile going to public for the rest of the world to see, or is it going to be private? And your fields, accounting. If your field of expertise is not listed there, they have the more common, the general subject areas there. You can add your expertise there if it's very specialized. So that's all your affiliations, where you've worked before. That is also important if you think of places like Northwest University. A couple of years back it was University of the Northwest, and then they've standardized on Northwest University. And there's University of Natal, University of Durban Westville. It's now University of KwaZulu-Natal. So you have to enter all of that if you've moved around. Building your profile. So this is where you add your articles, you add your publications. So you can either do it later on, or if you create your profile, you do it straight away. But it's like you're constantly changing your profile, updating it, like Facebook or LinkedIn. It's the same principle.
Sorry, in terms of this, it doesn't go and find ones that belong and ask you, is this yours?
No, it doesn't.
So you have to physically pull them in. How do you do that? Do you do that through the search engine?
Through the search engine, yes, through the search engine. But you literally have to go and do a search. Okay, that is my article. You identify, and then you pull it in, and you add it. But no, it doesn't do it on your behalf. No, it doesn't know if you are Mary or M.
There are some of these that would, I think it's like a search gate one, you know, and then it pops up and it says, is this yours? You just say yes or no. But this one doesn't do it. You have to physically go and do it.
You physically have to go and do it, yeah, exactly. So look, the publications there, and then you add the publications.
I'm sorry, I want to ask a question there as well. So it will only add publications that is in Web of Science?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's only the Web of Science publications.
You can add other articles manually.
Manually.
So you can add.
Okay. Sure. But I suppose then you physically type in everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, the Web of Science there, and then EndNote, and upload the file, option 3. But I think the university is using RefWorks, not EndNote. That's, you have the site license for RefWorks. And over here is the process of adding the articles. Your My Publications, for instance. Add My Publication there at the top. And then you identify them specifically, the ones that are yours. So there's your last name, surname, initial. Add one item, and then return to the menu. Now, with the researcher ID, it's interesting to know that, for instance, climate change, bioinformatics, nanotechnology, a lot of people have chosen those specific keywords, nanotechnology, climate change. So that is why they are in a larger font. For instance, bioinformatics, I would say, is probably the largest. So a lot of people that have registered and have researcher IDs have indicated that they are specializing in bioinformatics. So that is why that specific keyword is so large. And then sort of the smaller they get, the less interest, I would say, there is. And so data mining is quite large. But there's more interest in bioinformatics than in the others. Now what you can also do is you can search by institution there, Stellenbosch University, and see how many people have registered at Stellenbosch University and how many people already have researcher IDs. And then you can see here at the bottom, I know it's very small, but you can see there's some people, Arnott, Augustine, they've already registered industrial engineering. So you can see there, 132 already. So this is if you want to view the profile of Razeen Davids. You see there. So at a glance, you see everything that she's published. And the date and everything. Now, these graphs are also very interesting, sort of the author, the network. Citing articles network, collaboration network, and then the ID badge that you can include in your CV. So in this case, you can clearly see who she collaborated with and all the names. Now, if you are in the same area of expertise, you can also approach those people and say, let's work together. And if you can work with somebody in a European university, some of those countries there, it's even better for your own exposure, your own brand, collaboration. And obviously, it's also important where you publish your article. And if you look at the various journals and the impact factors of those journals. So, you know, there's a lot of things that are important when you're at the point of submitting your article. So you can see that she's collaborated with people in South Africa and then also in Japan. And this is what I spoke about, bioinformatics, that it's a well-used, well-known sort of keyword, subject area. And there's the world map, people that are using researcher ID. University of Pretoria, University of South Africa. So just to summarize, it's just you have to keep your own publications organized. You know, very often the dean will jump on you or the HOD and say, listen, I need a list of your publications by tomorrow. And then it's all over the place. It's like a CV. You have to keep it updated all the time. And it gives you access to the metrics, the citation metrics of your publications, how many times you've cited, co-cited, and then it connects you to experts in your field. And again, you have to collaborate. I'm stressing that. And then it gives you easy access to the publications on Web of Science. And then identify you from somebody else, and it's free. So why not make use of that? So there are useful links if you want to have a look at Researcher ID and just supporting training documentation as well. So thank you. I hope you've learned something. All right.
Thank you, Fiona, for that interesting presentation. We're going to focus now on Scopus, the Elsevier product, as well as Google Scholar. Regarding the question there from Anne earlier on, whether you can change your own, whether Scopus will be able to alert you to any possible articles. I'm not aware that Scopus can do that, although I know that you can add articles manually as you would be able to do on Web of Science. But on Google Scholar, they alert you if there are potential articles that you might be the author on. We'll show you how to do that later on. Right, so this is just going to be a hands-on presentation. There are no PowerPoint slides, so you're either welcome to do this on your own in the PC in front of you, or you can just follow me on screen as we go on our way. Right, to access Web of Science, Scopus, as well as Google Scholar, you obviously need the library websites. And on the library websites, we will go next to the White House, underneath the search option, and we will select it. Right, if anyone gets stuck somewhere along the line, please just raise your hand and Marie will try to sort you out. You all right, Dan? Not yet. Okay. Right, so it's electronic databases underneath the search option. And then, as we did on Tuesday, we just move along to the database that we are interested in. And because we're going to Scopus to look at their author identifier, we move to S and we select Scopus on the alphabetical listing. Please remember that once you've selected Scopus, Scopus opens up on the default choice, which is the document search. So if you want to see what your profile looks like as a researcher, on Scopus, please select the author search and not the document search to see what your overview as a researcher looks like, including your citation overview. Can everyone see now? Great. Right, so there we are on Scopus's author identifier. It's fairly self-explanatory to access this. As you can read there, it says author, last name, and then the initials, as well as the affiliation. The affiliation is fairly similar to Web of Science, which uses the address option. So it's very easy, and I'm going to use a fairly familiar researcher here at Stellenbosch University. And as you can see there with affiliation, you don't have to add University of Stellenbosch or Stellenbosch University. You can just add Stellenbosch, and then the surname and the initial. If this particular person has an ORCID ID, obviously the researcher can just add his ORCID ID there in the search box for ORCID ID. Obviously I don't know that, so I'll just add it in his personal information. I would select search, and then I would get an overview of this particular researcher's research output on specifically Scopus, including all the journal articles that this author has published on the journals that are published within Scopus. So that's why it's also important to have not only have a researcher ID on Web of Science, because as you all know that not all journal articles indexed on Web of Science are also indexed on Scopus, and it goes the same way and the other way as well. So unfortunately it's one of those things that researchers need more than one ID for their research. Hopefully ORCID ID can solve some of that problems, that will combine the two research outputs. Right, so there I have David Richardson's profile on Scopus, and to access his citation overview on Scopus, I select his name. And on the profile page of the author identifier, you will get the usual things that you are very interested in, including the H index, which is now moved from the right-hand side of the Scopus page to the top left-hand side, and the H index. And you will notice they're also fairly similar to the Web of Science researcher ID. There is a unique author identifier on Scopus. So Scopus tries to do exactly the same as Web of Science's researcher ID by combining author surnames into one particular profile, and it uses a fairly complicated algorithm where it looks at the author's keywords, subject areas of expertise, as well as the affiliation where this particular author or researcher has published in. So there we can see an overview of the researcher's output. 263 documents on Scopus, and the 263 documents has been cited over 15,000 times by just over 8,000 particular documents. And you will notice all the documents that has been published by this author on Scopus is also indexed. It's indexed currently by, looks like, date. So the most recent articles or documents on Scopus by this particular researcher or author is displayed first. If you would like to see which of these documents has been cited the most, then there is an option on Scopus, and then next to the sort on option. It's date at the moment, but you can change that to cited by. So if I select the cited by option, I would get in my result list the list of all the documents that have been cited the most from this particular author. So his most cited document was that one from 2000, and it's already been cited over 1,000 times by various other documents within Scopus. Right. Also, there's a summary on the right-hand side so that you can get some sort of an idea how prolific this author has been over the last 10 years. And also remember that Scopus indexes up to fairly recently only documents that's been published since 1996 up until 2015. Web of Science, I think, goes back to 1970, but Scopus is also working on that. So they are individually doing a retrospective indexing of articles up to 1970. So let's have a look at a more in-depth overview of this particular researcher's documents on Scopus, and to select that I would go to Analyze the author output to get a nice graphical presentation of this particular researcher's output on Scopus. And you can see there on the right-hand side the different journals that this particular author has published in, with the titles of the journals, how many documents he has published in that particular journal. So there you can see the South African Journal of Botany. This particular researcher has published 17 documents in that journal. South African Journal of Science, there are 12. And on the left-hand side, you will notice that there is a tabular presentation of the publications in which this researcher has published documents in. And all of this is downloadable. At the top there's an option where you can export, print or email the overview of documents published by this particular author. If you want to have a look at an overview of the H-index of this author, there's a tab just next to that. All the citations that this author has received, there's a tab for that as well. So that will give you, in table format, an idea of how many times this author has been cited since 1996. As I alluded to earlier on, that Scopus is working on the retrospective citations since 1970. But at the moment you can see that only goes back to 1996. Please also bear in mind that because Scopus only goes back to 1996, that the H-index might differ from between Scopus and Web of Science. Right, if this author would like to see how many co-authors and who the co-authors that he has been collaborating with, there would be a list again displayed of all the co-authors, and unfortunately that only goes up to 150. So obviously this researcher has co-authored quite a number of times, and the most prolific co-author will be indexed right at the top of this list. Right, let's go back to the author details page. And you will notice there on the right hand side there is an add to ORCID link where you can add the Scopus unique author identifier list to that. Right, let's have a look at our citation overview just below the analyze output or author output. Again, it looks fairly similar to the Web of Science citation output listing. So there you can see how many times this author has been cited since 2011, with these documents arranged chronologically from the most recent right at the top. Obviously 2015 articles won't have been cited as many times as articles from in previous years. And if you'd like to see how many times he's been cited in previous years, on the left-hand side next to my tabs, there's an option where I can go back in history. Not working at the moment. In any case. Right, let's move back to our author details, because there's just one other thing that I'd like to allude to here. The H-index of 62. Now that would include all the author's citations, including the self-citations. Of 62. So if I had a look here at my citation overview, those 15,000 citations that this author has received also include citations where he cited himself, or herself for that matter, as the example might be. But Scopus does give you the opportunity to exclude all self-citations. Just below the date range, there's an option where I can say exclude self-citations of all the authors, including the co-authors. So maybe let's just go with excluding self-citations by that specific author that I'm looking at. And after I've done that, I can go to update. And then you will notice that from just over 15,000 citations that this author has received, it will now change to just over 13,000 citations, excluding his own self-citations. And then also, very interestingly enough, you will notice that his H index has also been adapted according to what I have just selected. And just to rectify the date range, obviously you cannot select there the 2011, but right at the top there's an option where you can select all the years, and you can see there that it does go back to 1970, but for this particular author, Scopus is only indexing from 1996. Oh dear. Right, so obviously you cannot from 1996. Let's see, from 2001. Right, so to get a more thorough overview of the last 15 or 16 years of this particular author's publications and citations on Scopus, you can change the parameters there as well. Right, so just please be aware, if you do exclude the self-citations, that affects the H-index of an author on Scopus. Not quite sure what it would do on Web of Science. And again, everything here is available to export on a spreadsheet. If you need to change your details on your author identifier on Scopus, you can send Scopus an email as well. And to do that, if I select to go back to my author details, it happens from time to time if you go through your list of documents on Scopus that you recognize, but I've just published an article in this particular journal and it's not indexed on Scopus. And then on the right-hand side, there's an option where you can say select request author detail corrections. It's a step-by-step process, and I think there are about 5, maybe 6 steps that the author, him or herself, has to go through to request a particular document to be added to his personal profile on Scopus. There are 5 steps. Now, it doesn't always happen that Scopus will approve these changes to your author, unique author identification on Scopus, because it could be that Scopus does not include that particular journal on their indexing. So please be aware, if you are an author and Scopus decides not to include that on their list of journals, it's because they don't index it. Right, that is Scopus and the unique author identifier, fairly similar to the researcher ID from Web of Science. So let's just move over to Google Scholar as another option where you can load your citations. And again, I am going to use the library website, and we're all very familiar with the library website. Next to the White House, underneath the databases option, I go to G for Google, and I move to Google Scholar. The National Research Foundation always looks at all 3 of them, the Scopus H index, the Web of Science index, but I think most researchers at Stellenbosch University would prefer the National Research Foundation to look at their H index on Google Scholar, because it's very inflated, because no one really knows exactly what Google Scholar indexes. I don't think they know themselves what they index. But a lot of, or some of the documents that are indexed on Google Scholar are not peer-reviewed. So please remember that everything, or most on Scopus, and definitely everything on Web of Science are all peer-reviewed. And that's why they don't have so many documents from where you can diverge your H-index from. Google Scholar, and I'm going to use the same example as I did with Scopus to see what the H-index would be on Scholar. Now, to view the citation overview of an author on Google Scholar, you will have to sign in with your own Google Scholar ID, which I have already done. It's remembered me from Thursday. Brilliant. If you don't have one, though, and you select My Citations or My Updates, it really doesn't matter which one you select, you will get a page where it will ask you to sign in. I wonder if I can sign out here. Right, now I know how to do that as well. Right, so that's the page that usually you will be confronted with when you sign into Google Scholar. You will notice that there's a sign-in option to the top on the right-hand side. So as a researcher, if you want to view your citations now, and you'll notice that there's an option that says My Citations, right there at the top. If I select My Citations now, I will get the sign-in page. And if I'm not Paulette or Debbie or the lower mentioned person, I would select the Add Account option. And after you've selected the Add Account option, there's an option that says Create an Account. And finally, this is where you need to be if you do not have a Google account, and this includes a Gmail. If you do have a Gmail account, you should be able to sign into Google Scholar. It's only if you don't have a Gmail account. And then it's fairly self-explanatory there on the right-hand side. I think we've already gone through that route with Web of Science's Researcher ID. Please remember that the username and password does not have to match your Stellenbosch University username and password, because please remember your Stellenbosch University password changes every 3 months. This one doesn't. So if you need to create a new account for yourself on Google Scholar, choose something different. Right, so I'm going to sign in. Can't remember my password. Brilliant. Right, I'm in. So, there is my extremely exciting profile on Google Scholar. Obviously, we'd like to get someone a bit more exciting than myself. On the right-hand side, I can search for other scholars worldwide. If I'm only looking for Stellenbosch University scholars or researchers, I can add Stellenbosch. Select the magnifying glass and then indexed by the amount of citation that that particular author has received. And again, Professor Richardson is right at the top. And all other researchers from Stellenbosch University that has a Google Scholar profile will be indexed here as well. So I'm interested in Professor Richardson's profile. And there we go. I mentioned earlier on the Scopus and Web of Science H-index differs slightly from the one on Google Scholar, and I mentioned a few reasons why that might be. And you will notice here that this particular researcher's H-index is considerably higher on Google Scholar. It's 81. Apart from that, it does everything that Scopus as well as Web of Science does. So you will get a list of all this author's documents that's available via Google Scholar, how many times it's been cited. You can see this particular document has been cited over 2,000 times. On Scopus, the highest cited document was just over 1,000 documents. So again, you have to ask yourself, how does this happen on Google Scholar and not on the other peer-reviewed databases? Right, another great thing that Google Scholar does, if you are interested in this particular researcher, and the subject areas that this particular researcher is also interested in, you can follow him or her by selecting the follow button, the blue one, at the top next to Google Scholar, and then you can either select the option that says follow any new articles that is published on Google Scholar, or you can say, you'd like to follow any new citations to any document that this particular author has written on Google Scholar. And you will be notified via email as soon as either, obviously, a new document by this particular author is published on Google Scholar, or whenever anyone cites this particular author on Google Scholar. Right. Then I'd just like to go back to the question from Anne, and therefore I think I will have to go back to myself. Google Scholar does alert you if it thinks that there might be additional articles or documents on Google Scholar that you wrote, but it's not on your profile. Right, I went one step too quick there. On your profile, there's an option that says Add. As you can see, I've only got the one, or we only have the one title there on Google Scholar, but if I would like to add additional documents that is available on Google Scholar that I don't know is available on Google Scholar, I can select the Add option. And there Google Scholar would give me a few options where Google Scholar thinks I might be the author. And there I have 2, and apparently there are 8 additional ones. So if I would like to see all 10 documents that Google Scholar thinks that I might be the author of, I would select View All 10 articles. And you will notice that there are the 10 documents that I have, or that Google Scholar thinks that I might have been the co-author of. I'm just going to remove that then. So Google Scholar does that for you as well. Whereas Scopus, you have to add them manually, or you have to request that particular document via Scopus to be added to your profile list. Right, that is Google Scholar, and I will hand over now to Marie for the ORCID presentation.
Thank you very much, Peter. Okay, I will start now with the ORCID presentation and tell you a bit more about what ORCID is and how it works. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth because tomorrow we've got the talk by Laurel Haag, that's the Executive Director of ORCID, and I know she's going to go into a lot of depth and tell you a lot of nice things about ORCID. So I'm going to show you the basics today, how to register and what the basics are. So if you haven't subscribed for her talk tomorrow, please do that as well if you are interested. So ORCID is the Open Researcher and Contributor ID. That's what ORCID stands for. And it aims to solve the name ambiguity problem in research by providing researchers with a free, permanent, unique identifier. ORCID also provides a linking mechanism between this and other current researcher ID schemes, such as those in Scopus and Web of Science. That's the author ID in Scopus and researcher ID that you've seen now this morning. They they connect with each other. In order to correctly attribute your research activities and output in one place. So this is what ORCID does. It draws them all together into one place. So I will show you how that works later on. So then just a quick, again, overview here. What is ORCID? It's the unique persistent identifier for researchers and scholars. It's a non-profit organization supporting linkages between systems. The benefits, some of the benefits to you, it improves the discoverability of your papers and your work. It connects your work with each other, with your ID and with your name. It eliminates name ambiguity, as you've seen, and it stays with you throughout your career. That's very important to know as well. So if you change institutions, for example, you can easily go to ORCID and change your institutional email address there as well. So it stays with you as person. So there's just a link to where to go to get your free ORCID ID. We will look at it just now as well. And then how to use your ORCID ID. There's a lot of uses available. You have to use it sometimes now. The publishers ask for your ORCID ID when you have to publish something in some cases. So you use it for manuscript submissions, grant applications, professional society memberships, link with other identifiers and profiles, as you've seen this morning, and to display it on your CV, your web page, and wherever you want to display it. Some of the other things that's not on that list is also researcher information systems, and also repositories. As we, with our Sun Scholar repository, you will also be able to add your ORCID ID there as well. So I'm going to show you now exactly how you can subscribe if you haven't yet. Just to get an idea, who of you has an ORCID ID? Not yet. Not one of you. Okay, then we're going to do that this morning. So it's very easy to register and create your ORCID ID. And to add your personal information and add your publications. So I'm going to click on that now. Oh, I just hope, I'm not sure if the INET key is on. Let me just check quickly. Yeah. Okay, here we are. On the website of ORCID, on its homepage, you will get the 3 easy steps: register, add your information, and use your ORCID ID. So what you have to do to register, you can do it now as we are talking, or you can go afterwards. We've got a library store just outside, and you can do it there as well. There will be someone when we finish. But if you want to do it now as we go through it, you're welcome as well. If you click on register now, you will have a very easy screen to complete. I'm just going to start completing it, but you will see as soon as I enter my email address, it will tell me that I already exist on the system. So I can't, this is also the way that ORCID helps that you don't have duplicate records. It will immediately pick up if you are already on the system. So I won't continue with this now, but then you also create your own password and confirm your password. That's your own, it doesn't have to be your Stellenbosch password. And then, very importantly, you have the option to choose your privacy settings. And the first one is public, and then a limited privacy and private, like totally private. Now, the public one, I just want to read here. The information can be viewed by anyone who comes to the ORCID website or using the ORCID API. So that's open for everyone to see. They can't use your information or duplicate it or whatever, but it's open for everybody to see. And the limited option is that information can be seen by anyone authorized by you as a trusted party. So that will happen when you connect, for example, your ORCID ID with Scopus. Then it will ask you to authorize. So that's a trusted party with ORCID is Scopus. So all ORCID's members will be trusted parties. And in that way, you will connect with those members. And, but it will always ask you to authorize or not. So it's still your choice what you do with it. And then the private one, information can only be seen by you. It's totally private. You can change your privacy settings at any time as well. So after you've set up your profile and you chose, for example, to make it public, then afterwards you can go back and change it if needed. Okay, then while we're subscribing here, you can click on the notification emails. Send me notifications about changes to my ORCID record. Changes will only happen when you authorized someone to work on your behalf on ORCID, or when, for example, if our repository, if you've given them the authorization to change on your ORCID ID, then the changes will be made, but not if you haven't authorized anyone. But you can choose here to get a notification in any case if changes happen. And you can also choose to send for them to send you information about any events and news about ORCID. And then, of course, you always have to click the terms of use and read the privacy policy and conditions perhaps first to make sure you understand it. And then you click on register. When you register, you will receive afterwards an email to confirm your details and just to make sure you are the correct person that subscribed. And I just at this stage want to tell you we have a competition at the moment for Library Research Week. For everyone that subscribes in this week, we're perhaps going to extend it a week or two. Then you will stand a chance to win a £1,000 voucher. So it's quite a big prize. So if you would like to sign up and send us, then I will show you the details at the end again to whom you must send your email confirmation. Then you will be entered for the draw. Okay, let's just continue. I'm going to sign in now on my ORCID account to just show you how it works further. Okay, so I haven't added anything really. I've just created my ORCID account ID. So there you will see it on the left-hand side. And I've also added my researcher ID. So you will see that here below as well. If we look at it here from the left-hand side, you can get a QR code for your ID as well. If you want to put that on your web or on a flyer or on your wherever, you can click there and receive a QR code as well. That is something that, like a barcode that you can scan with your phone and then just it will open the web page. I haven't clicked before on this link, so let's just see what happens. Yeah, so here it will connect your record and you say create your QR code. Then it will, yeah, see here as well, it will always ask you to authorize as soon as you connect with another system. And then there is my QR code that you can copy and paste on any thing you would like to promote yourself, and then people can scan that code with their cell phones. All right, but let's go back. Here you can now populate your record with a biography, with your education. Here you click on the right-hand side to add education. This you will have to add manually, and as well your employment, funding, any funding details that you would like to add, and then, but the most important in ORCID, they call your publications works. That's what they call it. So it's works, not works. So that's the most important area, we think. So you can add by search and link, by import a BibTeX file, and adding it manually as well. So if you search and link, so I'm not going to do the education and employment, you just add it. If you click on add manually, you will get a screen where you can add your education, which institution, department, degree, and the dates, etc. The same with employment and funding. And so yeah, if we go back to works and you click on search and link, then a whole page will open up with all the members of ORCID from where you can add your work. So there's quite a few, but the ones that we will use now is usually Researcher ID and Scopus. So you've seen I've already added my Researcher ID, but I'm just going to click here again to just show you what happens. Here it will ask you to authorize again. So it will read your biographical information, it will add a person identifier and read items in your ORCID record. That's what Researcher ID will do from their side now. And you click on authorize, and okay, and then you have to log into Researcher ID, and I'm not sure if I'm going to remember that details now. So that's how it will happen. If you connect from Researcher ID side, you will have to log into ORCID as well. So that's just both ways. But you've seen that I'm already added there as well. But if you want to add works, I don't have any publications in those two databases, so I won't be able to do that now. But if you have, you go there, authorize, link to it, and then it will, there's a wizard. So I think we should now...
Attention please. Stellenbosch University Support Services and library vendors are exhibiting in the library as part of our Research Week. You are welcome to come and browse. Freebies are also available. Everyone is also welcome to make use of the Research Cafe in the library staff room between 12 and 2 for the rest of the week. Snacks and drinks are for sale. All of this is happening on the upper level. Thank you.
Okay.
Aandag asseblief. Universiteit Stellenbosch se ondersteuningsdienste en biblioteekverskaffers stel in die biblioteek uit as deel van ons navorsingsweek. Jy is welkom om te kom kyk. Freebies is beskikbaar. Almal is ook welkom om gebruik te maak van die Research Cafe in die biblioteekse personeelkamer tussen 12 en 2 vir die res van hierdie week. Eet en drinkgoed is te koop. Alles gebeur op die boonste vlak. Dankie.
Okay. We had to do a bit of advertisement as well for the Research Cafe, so there you have it. All right, I'm going to now show you rather a researcher's ID with more, so that you can see how it will look when there's work added to the record. So I'm going to choose John Meesey. He was one of our speakers yesterday, and he mentioned ORCID, so I'm sure he will have a record. So here you will see, you will find, when you do a search, you will find a lot of options, but we can see only the first one is the correct one. So you click on the ID, and then you will find Dr. John Meesey. I saw that he only added his work, so he didn't put up a biography or any other information there. It's your own decision how you want to populate your record. Okay, so here you will see how it will look after he added his research, his publications to ORCID. It will also indicate from which source it has been added. So in this case, it was researcher ID. I can see most of his works have been added through researcher ID, but there's a few that he added manually. Let me just scroll down. Yeah, like here, there's quite a few that you will see the source is G. John Meesey, so that was himself that added it manually to ORCID. He added the DOI numbers, so you can click through directly on the document as well. So yeah, that's how it will look at the end when all your work is together in one place. You will see he's got 53 publications. We should perhaps search for Peter's example. Peter, the person's name that you, Richardson, Dave, no? I'm not sure if he's on ORCID, but we can just have a look. Oh, no, it doesn't look like it. I've spelled correctly, no. Oh, I said Dave. Okay, sorry, that's a bit informal now. David, let's try again. Oh, there's quite a few. So now this is, I'm going to DM. Yeah, but what I'm going to do, I see now, yeah. But what I'm also just going to do to show you, you can connect it with the place as well. I'm just going to do that and see. That's now if he populated his record like that. Oh, it's still quite a few, but let's choose this one. Okay, he doesn't have a lot of information on it. No information added yet, so he might be quite new on the scene. So here you can see the problem with names. There's a lot of David Richardsons, and I hope it's not the same person, because then, it doesn't look very good that there's so many records for him. So that just shows that you have to be very careful. It's still your responsibility to make sure you sign up only once and not use more than one email address, things like that. It is still, if you use more than one email address, ORCID won't pick up that you're the same person. Okay, but I'm sure this won't be all of him. Right, let's just go back to the slideshow now. Just want to go back to the linking. We've already talked a bit about this morning, but we can just continue with this quickly. To link Scopus data with ORCID. The Scopus ORCID wizard will transfer your Scopus author ID information to your ORCID record. It allows you to merge several profiles into one preferred profile, add missing articles, or remove articles that were not authored by you. So that you all saw this morning with Peter's presentation. So you can go to your author details page in Scopus, search for your name, click on the associated hyperlink and click then on that Add to ORCID button that Peter showed us. And then, of course, again, click on Authorize again. So it is this Add to ORCID button that you saw this morning as well. And then you will get this screen as well to authorize to connect to Scopus. And then you will get this wizard. And it is 6 steps that you have to go through because they want to make sure that you are, it's the correct profile, you've got the correct publication. So the first step is select your profile, the correct profile on Scopus. Then select your profile name, review your publications, review your profile, and then only you send the author ID to ORCID. And after that, the 6th step is to send your publications as well to ORCID. So that's all the steps. I'm not going to do it online now, but that will be the process that you will be following. At the bottom here, I have just mentioned that you need to keep your profile up to date yourself. It's all your own responsibility. It's not going to happen by itself. So by adding new publications as they appear on Scopus, one way to do this is to set up an alert for new items that are added to Scopus. So you will get an alert, and then you know, just a reminder to yourself to go and add it to ORCID as well. Right, then the same thing with linking your researcher ID with ORCID. It's just from the researcher ID side how that will work now, if you don't do it through ORCID itself. Here the button is exchange data with ORCID. You will see that on your researcher ID profile. And oops, sorry, this is what Fiona also showed this morning. So this middle button here will be then send researcher ID publications to my ORCID account. In the resulting ORCID researcher ID connection screen, you click again on authorize. And then you may need to log into ORCID first before it will continue. Okay, that's now in a nutshell. Very quick, we are working on more help as well. There will be a library guide on ORCID soon. It's not yet available, but it will come soon. And the help page on ORCID's website is very helpful in any case for you to continue with working with ORCID on your own, with your publications, with your record. We are also a member of ORCID now, but we are in a process to work on that because there's a lot of development that has to be done on the IT side to make the connection. So we will keep you up to date with how far we, as soon as we have more information on that, but it will be more towards the end of the or later in the year. For now, you can just continue working with creating your ORCID ID, working with your publications on it, and when we want to connect you with Stellenbosch, we will let you know by email, and then you just connect your current ID with us. You don't have to create a new ID at that stage. You just connect it. So that will come later this year. I'm just going to click on the ORCID's website quickly. Again, to just show you this help page. You will find it, sorry, I think I should rather just go back to the main page to show you where you will find this. It's under the help button, and if you click there, you will get the ORCID ID knowledge base at the top there. And this is the standard one for the website user, and with all the different things. It's all, here is how to manually add works, how to add funding, add a trusted individual. That is something I haven't spoken about yet. Let's just quickly go to that. So this is when you want to add, like for example, a faculty, your librarian to help you with your ORCID. You can add an individual. That person has to be on ORCID to be able to add him to you. But it's a very easy steps to do that as well. You search for the person on ORCID's website, and then you add him as a trusted individual for your ORCID account as well. So you can work together with other people and collaborate, but also helping each other populating your sites. But that you will only do when you really want to help with it. So here you will be able to, this is how you manage your trusted individual list. You will have your list of individuals, and then you can delete them as well later on if needed. Okay. But yeah, this help guide is very helpful in the meantime if you need any help. And you can ask us as well if you need any help with that. That is all from me. Do you have any questions for any of us that were speakers? Marie?
I want to know, you have companies also IDs. Must you have all of them, or must you only have the one that's under ORCID?
Yeah, yeah.
Keep everything up to date.
Yeah, but the thing is, what now with ORCID, because it's like an umbrella ID, you connect your other IDs with it. The ORCID one, I think, is in my opinion, it's an important one because worldwide it's been used now. The publishers want it before you can submit publications. Sometimes it will be used on our repository soon. Yeah, but that doesn't. You still have to have a profile on Scopus to manage, and then you have your profile ID there as well. And the same with researcher ID. I don't think it's, but I know the problem of all the, but I think it will go towards only one ID with ORCID in the future. Can you help us with that question?
I can just add something. On Monday I attended a presentation about ORCID. I think by Laurie Hawks, who will be here tomorrow. Maybe if you can attend that, it will be good. What they did say there is, I think the main one will eventually be ORCID, because the universities, and Stellenbosch was like one of the first ones, the universities are signing up for ORCID. So the researcher will be linked to the university, and then the funding and the repositories. So I would say, maybe not now, but in a year's time, ORCID will be the most important one, or the more important one, than the researcher ID and Scopus and Google maybe. Because it links everything together from a management point of view, from the university's point of view.
And also for the researchers' view, because
From
you
the
have
researchers,
everything together at one place.
And I think from the university's point of view, it's where they will evaluate you. At a glance, see what are you doing or not doing, the H-index. That's important from the management point of view.
You've shown us how we can pull from the other places into ORCID. Does it work the other way around also? So basically, can you choose just one place to put something and then just tell it populate the rest?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just, if your work is in Web of Science and in Scopus, there's sometimes some of your records, your publications that won't be in Web of Science, but it's in Scopus. So that's just, if you connect, you have to connect it from the database. But you can add it manually as well on ORCID. But it's just that type of thing that sometimes...
I think create one, say on ORCID, and then you populate
from there.
Use that as a starting point, and then pull in, add, manually pull it in, populate both sides.
and it works both ways because you can populate from ORCID and you can send from researcher ID or Web of Science to ORCID. So it works in those two cases. I think ORCID moves toward adding more and more members in any case to with other databases will follow definitely as well.
But you must watch the ORCID developments at the university closely. And probably by the end of the year, I think everything here at the university will be in place.
Yeah. We are still now in a bit of a process to get everything in place. But for now, we just want you so long to know about ORCID, create your IDs, and then we'll continue throughout the year.
No, I was just amazed that Stellenbosch was the first one to go for ORCID. So I was thinking, okay, so now all the others will follow shortly. You know, UCT, Rhodes, those places, the research universities.